We seek for the truth, we demand clarity, and we want the facts with no filters. That's why this platform exists, not to tell you what to think, but to give you the tools so you can think for yourself. While traditional medias are always playing the same predictable game, chasing clicks, protecting donors, and avoiding the tough questions, but we do the opposite. As you already know, we do the opposite. We question everything, we challenge everyone, and we go straight to the source. But here's the reality though. Being independent isn't cheap. If you want a media that isn't bought, then you have to start supporting the media that cannot be bought. And that happens to be us. Duh. Because we don't take orders from corporations, we don't bend to politicians, we don't adjust our message to fit the advertisers. Our loyalty is only for one person, and that is you, the audience, who actually cares about truth, who actually cares about transparency, accountability. And I need your help to keep that going. For as little as £5 a month, you can keep this machine spinning and you can keep the accountability alive, because that is something that we're lacking in the UK. So if you're tired of being talked down to, if you're tired of being manipulated, if you're tired of feeling like every headline is designed to push an agenda, then help us, join us, because the future belongs to the people who think for themselves. And we're building a platform that empowers exactly that. So support us. Support the independent media, support the real journalism that we're doing here, and of course support the truth, not the noise. Please go to the link in the description and support the channel. Thank you so much. You've been silenced for very long, and every time you try to resist, they put you in jail.
For my children.
You control your mind for so long to the point where you let them decide what your kids should learn, what gender they will be. And now you've let them to come for the whole nation, destroying what Britain once stood up for. They use this media machine not to report the facts to you, but to tell you what to think and what you should do.
Always be careful.
They're hiding the facts behind the noise, and they're recruiting pedophiles to tell you how to behave. And these politicians who meant to protect you, they're out there smashing your head on the ground. And no jail time for them. This road we've been on has been very dark for a very long time, and it's time to shine a light on the truth and advocate for justice. We the people make the nation, and if we don't stand up and advocate for justice, then we certainly won't make this nation great again. So we have to create a place for that, a place that can contribute to a more informed society. And that place is Next Frontier Media. Ladies and gentlemen, patriots, truth seekers, digital warriors, welcome back to the show. As you already know, this is not a regular broadcast. This is the Baraka Show. We do something different, very different over here. I think this is the moment where everyone has been waiting for, right? A moment where you see an advanced member and also a Restore Britain member in the same stream having a debate. And the crazy thing about this is that both of these guys just a week ago were in the same team. That's why this conversation is very interesting, because of course we're going to get to learn why somebody decided to jump and why somebody else decided to stay. And I think this is a conversation that everybody is having, and they're asking questions like, hey, why did Richard Shaw jumped? Why did he really jump? And him coming out saying the party is rotten or it's chaotic or the member is not working. It's like, really? Is it not working? And then, of course, we have the regional director coming on, joining us live as well, who's going to be also challenging that. Is it working? And, of course, we're going to hear from both of these guys. Folks, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And my guest, if you haven't seen this person, this is, of course, Richard. Richard Thompson is our national director at Advance UK. Richard, how you doing?
Hi, Baraka. Thanks for having me on again. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us here. And we're also going to be joined with also Richard J. Shaw. Too many Richard today, I guess. Richard, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks, Baraka. But next time, give me a heads up and tell me who I'm on with, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we send you an invitation. We send everybody an invitation.
So... It was cheeky.
Cheeky. All right, great stuff. Well, it looks like he's going to be firing. Just in case if you guys don't know who this man really is, this is the guy who had an idea not long ago, and this idea sparked into something huge. And of course, that was obviously being turned into Advanced UK. So he's a guy who had an idea, and today is the reason why we're having this discussion today. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I want to focus on today, folks. I want to focus on Richard J. Shaw, because I've not had you publicly on the live show. We've had our attempt to get on the show and go back and forth, but I want to get to know a little bit about yourself and your political journey and how you got yourself here today. Could you give us a little brief of your political journey, please?
Yeah, no problem. So I just got to start off by saying I don't do party loyalties. You'll probably tell from this journey. I
Yeah.
do loyalty to the country, and if a party isn't working for the country, I ain't working for the party. It's as simple as that. So I started off really with the Conservatives. I mean, as a kid, I was an idealistic youth, and I thought socialism was a great idea, as we all do when we're in college and we're told that. And as soon as I got out of college, realised that was silly. So I started off really with the Conservatives, and yeah, well, 14 years of that was abysmal. So I was a Brexiteer. I supported the Brexit Party when the whole EU referendum was going around, and after that went back to the Conservatives thinking Boris would do a good job, and he didn't. So I stood for reform in the 24 election, and after the election, things just quickly unravelled, and I could see what was going on inside the party. I could see how Farage was, I could see what was going on. So I decided this isn't working. We've got to do something different. Unfortunately, there was nothing. There was nothing out there. So I thought, okay, I'll do it myself. So I started up the Integrity Party, and from the moment I started that party, I thought there's two people I want on board with this: Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. Now, Rupert at the time, he was still with Reform, so I thought, okay, well, that's not going to happen, but I can get Ben. And I worked on that for a while. Ben said no to me several times until eventually the whole thing happened with Rupert and Reform, and then Ben said, okay, fine, I think we need to do something now. And yeah, then he told me that Rupert was going to be on board with that, and then obviously Rupert wasn't on board with it. Things progressed anyway, and we went along with it. Then the wheels started to come off inside Advance, and Rupert launched Restore as a party, and quickly became evident that that is going to be the vehicle that takes us to the next election. And with everything that was going on inside Advance, I felt that it was time to back the thing that was going to actually deliver change for this country, which is Restore Britain. So here I am.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. I understand. Now we was just watching and scraping all your, I would say the last 90 days, your online footprint in a sense, not in a creepy way, obviously, to prepare on this show. And on the 14th of February, not long ago, you made a tweet, or maybe I should say you made a video. It was 4 minutes long video. And that video was about is about Rupert. And you were hoping that Rupert would join Advance UK. And I'm going to quote here. You said, I sincerely hope Rupert does the right thing and adopt Advance UK constitution. Where are you with that right now, since obviously you've jumped?
So when I made that video, I was going off the information I had at the time.
Right.
But you'll notice if you've gone through my socials, I went dark for a couple of weeks. And
correct,
that was because I was looking into Restore, and I was looking into Advance, and a little bit into Reform, but mainly into Advance, to be honest. I started talking to a lot of the members, a lot of people in my extended network, and I wanted to get a feel for where the party was at, because I didn't know if a merger between Restore and Advance could happen, would happen, if it would work. I wanted to see which party was fit to take the country forward. And what I found within Advance was, well, to my mind, it's just not there.
Right. Okay. So all right. So I want to bring in Richard Thompson here. So in your video, you mentioned the 8-minute video that we had to cut down. Obviously, Richard J. Shaw, you meant when you were leaving the video that, of course, of yourself announcing that you were, leaving the party. You mentioned the reason why you're leaving the party is because you believe that the membership has been breached, the constitution has been breached. And just to quote you, you think it's rotten inside. Now, Richard Thompson, anything to say about that? Is it rotten? What's your initial reaction when you saw? First of all, what's your initial reaction when you saw that tweet of course, Mr. J. Shaw leaving? And after watching that whole video, is it true?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously disappointed whenever I see anybody, they deciding that they're going to, step away from the party. I think what was important for me, and you've seen this quite a lot online, the sort of vitriol and things like that. And what really sort of I detest, I don't mind criticisms of the party. I think that's really important for it to grow. I don't like, narrative framing and falsehoods. I think that's something that we should push back on. And for the most part, we're really more focused on the government's shameful stance with, the US and how that they've not backed up US collaborations there, or Rachel Reeves's budget, or, lots of other things that are going on. So we really want to stay out of any kind of spat. So this will be friendly. But I will say that, it was important to sort of push back when people, from in the Marines, we used to say someone was spicing up their dits, which means, exaggerating or falsely representing narratives. To say that, the wheels fell off and there was an investigation done, I'll have to be honest with you. I sit as national director. I talk to the members. I talk to the regional directors. I talk to, the college members and everything. And I've seen, obviously, some of the posts. I've seen some of the videos about how that the only people making the decisions are people that are Ben and closely circling around Ben. And I just thought that's obviously completely incorrect. So I wanted to come and hear what this investigation was so that we could discuss it, because obviously it's incorrect. And then to say that, there's only a select few people making decisions, but I'm going to join a party without a constitution where all the decisions are made by one person, seemed very hypocritical. And, I'm all for a lot of things, with Restore, but I don't like some of the online comments that have been thrown around. I think that behavior isn't really what's going to bring the country forward, right? And as far as I can see it, for a lot of the cases, a lot of the supporters with Restore, with Advance and with Reform and the Grassroots really need to not be sniping and attacking each other. Grow respectively, grow, with decency and honor. And that's the only way we're going to, combat any kind of alliance that happens on the left between Labour and the Greens.
Right. Now, Richard, sure. Any response to that?
It was a very skillful way of not answering the question, wasn't it?
Say it again.
Not at
that
all,
was
really.
a very skillful way of him not answering the question, wasn't it?
That was my reaction. He asked me what my opinion was, what I thought, what my reaction was. That was it.
That was your reaction. Now, could you tell us? Of course, he accused the party of rotting inside. He accused the party. He accused there is now to. It says that the party has lost its way, meaning the constitution has been breached, to quote his video. Now, since you're the national director, what's happening? Is that true? And this is coming from a man who helped. Well, basically, this is coming from a man who started the thing and passed it through. And if he's saying that, is that true? Could you respond to that, please?
Well, of course it's not true. And it's difficult because he said he's going to give examples. So I'll wait for the examples. But he can't just make a claim and say, I mean, we've been quite consistent throughout with what we've done, what we're building. We were a party that's like 9 months old, and what we've done is record breaking. I think when Ben took on and bought the Integrity Party, had about 200 members. We're now knocking on 40,000, right? We've then since then, brought in the constitution. We've rolled out policies. We're bringing out more policies. We're building up our regional directors. We're building up branches. Let's go ahead with your examples.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so tell me, what happened in Wales?
Any
What happened in the
specific?
Northeast?
Again, you need to give examples.
Let's go specific. What happened with the Welsh team in regards to their tour of Wales? I'd like to know about that, because they were halfway through a tour of Wales and all of a sudden that got stopped.
Nothing was stopped. Nothing happened. When we went through, I would say we're going to go through probably 3 phases in total. First phase, party gets formed by Ben in Advance UK. A constitution gets adopted. We then set out on getting 30,000 members to show that the electorate is behind us. That happens. We then become a political party, registered, and then we need to roll out a national framework that's uniform, that goes with due diligence, and it isn't centered around any individuals. It's pulled out of our members, of people that put forward on meritocracy. So what happened in Wales, if you're referring to, which is what I think you're referring to, stood down for personal reasons. I don't know what those personal reasons are. We wanted him to stay on. He decided to stand down. And who I believe is his partner had applied for the role of regional director. We had a pool of people that had applied for that role, same as every single other region. And we interviewed everyone for a rigorous process. They have a screening interview. There's a secondary interview where they adopt a 100-day plan, where they go through what that 100 days would look like, how they would build out branches and what they would do for competency checks. That then goes to a third and maybe a panel interview where they're rigorously tested. And we decided that after, I think it was the second stage, because obviously the initial screening, because we knew her, we decided that we wanted to keep her close and work with who we selected, and we went for someone that's got more experience. So it's as simple as that. So nothing was stopped.
More experience than actually building up Wales. Because they did a hell of a lot more than the team that's currently in there. And let's not mince words here. They got shat on.
No, they didn't. And Rich, just because you say things, it doesn't make it true. I know that you're emotional with it. We wanted them to stay on. They decided that they wanted to stand down. And that's on them. That's up to them. If they didn't want to be regional director, they didn't have to then leave the party. That was their choice.
Why do you think they stood down?
We wanted them to stay on. Say again?
And why did they stand down?
Well, you have to ask them. I'm not answering for them. We wanted them to stay.
They've already answered quite publicly.
I know, but because people are annoyed that they maybe didn't get the position that they wanted, doesn't mean that that's the truth. Again, it's narrative framing. It goes through a rigorous process with multiple people, not one person making a decision.
Tell me this then.
Now, hold on a second.
What about the letter that you received, signed by 23 members?
Multiple people, 100-day plan that gets rigorously pulled apart to decide whether we want someone to stand in that role or not. If we make the decision to go a different way and we invite them to stay on politely and they take whatever they take from that and decide to leave, that doesn't mean that we should then stop everything and put somebody in because of that. There's a process that gets followed for meritocracy, and that's as simple as that. And that was with every single person that got that position. So no compromise, rigorous process, meritocracy, principles.
Right.
And you put a... Come on, sorry, Baraka.
No, go on. No, I'll let you respond and I'll jump in.
The process has led to a bloke being put in place, an English bloke leading Wales, who is objectively useless. You're planning on standing in the Sneyd. Now, I understand standing in council elections and general elections, but you're not going to win any seats in Wales in the Sneyd. And not only that, you're not even going to get your deposit back in a single constituency. Everybody can see it, except you guys. And I've got more examples here that I would like to go through of places where Advance have really cocked up.
Right. I mean, looks like this conversation is more interesting. I didn't think we was going to get into this. I had a lot of questions that lined up, but I'm happy to go with it. So if you want to go through the list, we can go with it. Didn't know about this fight, to be fair. I didn't know about this whale thing. I mean, I've spoke to
well, I'll take the Wales one first. I'll take the Wales one first.
Go ahead.
I mean, if we decide that we don't have the courage to stand, right, and if we decide that we're just going to stand back, then we'll never get anywhere. It takes resolve. It does, and it's not for everyone. I get it, right? It really is. It's tough. It's a fight. It's a slog, and we have to just have courage and conviction, putting our stall forward and putting ourselves out there. However we strategically decide and what we decide to do, at the moment we are looking, at standing. Whether we take stock and take a look at some of the data and we speak to our Welsh team and people that are there, that's up to us. To imagine that you know the plan and to say that the Welsh person is objectively useless, again, that's just unpleasant language, really, isn't it? And it's not true. It's your subjective opinion, and it's not really worth commenting on. But what we decide to do as a collective from the team of people that are there, and that's what we're led from, the people on the ground. Your opinion can be your opinion, and I appreciate that that's your opinion, but it doesn't mean you should create false narratives.
What false narrative?
Saying that the party's rotten, it's gone away from its constitution, that there's no one making any decisions except Ben, the small team. It's gone back on its members and the college and everything else.
All right, tell me about the letter that was signed by 23 members that was sent to Ben. 23 members who had made some recommendations and asked some questions, voiced their concerns. Those members, what happened to them? Hounded out the party, half of them. What happened to free speech and to actually dealing with members' concerns? Because the way I see it, that's not what's going on inside Advance. It's been run in a manner that's completely unconscionable. Now, I have a lot of love, or had a lot of love, for Advance. I started the Integrity Party. I wanted this to succeed. I wanted this more than anybody. And what I'm seeing, I don't like.
Just a quick one. Let me just jump in real quick. So what is it specifically that you don't like about Advance UK? Could you list that out and let's see if Richard has anything to say about that? Because the last thing I want to do is just have a little just stuff being thrown around. I want to have a proper conversation here where we can see where we're standing on, and then of course I want to get into what makes Restore Britain then to advance, and why you actually jumped, what you seen that aligned you with Restore. But first, could you just give us a list of stuff that you think changed from Advance UK?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lack of confidence with members. There has been up until very, very recently. I don't know if it's changed in the last couple of weeks, but I seriously doubt it. There's been zero follow up to volunteers who've been trying to join to the party. Very little, anyway. There's been this big focus on like influencers, and it's it was supposed to be a grassroots sort of thing, but there's been a big focus on influencers. There's been nepotism in regards to a lot of people being brought over from the GB pack rather than people who were like properly good for the job. There's been sidelining of people like Nick Seaton-Rogers up the north and Paul Burgess off the college, and there's no transparency from the core team, like none. I honestly, it's been disappointing.
Go on.
Okay, can I say? Yeah. So Nick Seaton-Rogers obviously was I think before my time, and he was involved something to do with the Newcastle launch. He's a member. To say he's been sidelined. And again, there's he had no role within the party to be sidelined on. Paul Burgess, again, he resigned from the college, right? So. And just because you're picking on people that seem to be frustrated because they don't know necessarily what role that they were having or whatever gripe that they've got, I'm obviously not on the college. But again, that doesn't mean that things are rotten. you're picking on things that you're trying to say that are an issue. All of things, 2 weeks ago when you was part of the party, were apparently no issue. The real issue here, and I think we'll just address it, right, is that when you've got things like, for example, Gorton and Denton, right, that highlighted to people that we've got a mountain to climb. We've got to climb Everest, right? And you look at things online, because a lot of these people spend a lot of time online. That's where they get a lot of their information. And you've got noise making machines like Restore and Reform and things like that, and they see that as a lift that's going to take them up Everest. Whereas, Ben's sitting there with his ice picks trying to climb it, right? And it's difficult to do that. It's difficult to join him on that journey of doing that. So it's easier to then say, well, actually, I'm going to hop across here, and then I'm just going to try to burn the house down on the way out, because there hasn't been any examples of anything. You also mentioned a letter. There's a way of emailing. There's a way of emailing in. You, in fact, and you said there's no, so that people will get a response. I've not seen any letter. You can ask Ben about letter. He's very approachable. In fact, he's the only leader that will go on spaces, things like that. Well, I've not seen it. By all means, share it to me. My email is quite public.
Oh, I'll send it over. Don't you worry. And it's all right to say you've got an email, but if you don't answer the email.
You mentioned about volunteers. Well, I do respond to the emails. You mentioned volunteers as well, right? Now, you actually asked me to get involved with Gorton Denton. I put you on a list of volunteers, a WhatsApp group, which was stacked with lots of people that were there. So volunteers have a spot in the party. And also, as you said, that there's things aren't going, people aren't going in, and they're not, volunteers aren't getting this, and all the criticisms you made. Again, we're 9 months old as a party. We are forming branches. We've put regional directors in place. But by the end of next week, I hope to have all regional directors announced for every single region. We're growing, we're building a network of people, of members, and things like that. So it's, you have to sort of be realistic with it, and it's okay. I've got criticisms of the party that I would make that are fair and that are just, and that's things we need to learn from, right? But then like I said, to narrative create is not the right way of doing it, and it's disingenuous at best.
Right. Do you want to respond before we switch?
I just want to say that I don't think you want to talk to me about being disingenuous, because there have been some absolute porkers told from people within Advance, and I really don't want to open that can of worms.
But you haven't opened anything, and I'm being transparent with it all, Richard, honestly. Like I said, I don't mind people leaving and going to Restore. That's fine. What I don't like is when people frame a narrative. There are criticisms to be made about Advance. There genuinely is. And we need to have people robustly, say that. We talk about free speech. We're all for free speech. Absolutely. But you can't then frame a narrative and be disingenuous. That's what you can't do.
You can keep repeating the phrase frame a narrative all you want, but the truth is the truth.
Right.
You haven't given any examples of anything, I'm afraid.
I've given you plenty of examples. I'll give you a list. And if you want some more, I can go and give you some more. What about Ben's behaviour in regards to me and Rupert? Because I was lied to. I was lied to.
How was you lied to, Richard?
Well, because I was told that Rupert was in direct negotiation and was going to lead the party. That wasn't the case.
Why do you say that?
Well, because
why do you say that wasn't the case? Because it's obvious, right? Because like I said, you haven't really got anything.
There's absolutely no intention there. Right? It's become quite clear that there was no intention there, and that these. I mean, as well, Ben said publicly that he was going to merge with Restore, right? But then a week later, he's saying he's had no meaningful communication with Rupert. How is a merger going to take place if you've had no meaningful communication? Wasn't that all simply to try and get people to vote for Advance in the Gorton Denton by-election, Restore Britain supporters? Because that's what that looks like to me.
No, it's genuine honesty, and that's what that looks like, and we're not familiar with that in politics. So when Ben says that he'll sit down with Rupert and discuss things, They did. They sat down and and Ben laid out what that would look like. This is before Rupert decided to go and launch his movement as a party. And Rupert didn't bother to get back to him, right? So then Ben spoke publicly. He messaged him privately several times for a response, and then that didn't come. When Advance was being formed, it was formed with Rupert in mind. There was discussions with Rupert. Rupert had said that he wants to come in and join. He then decided that he was going to do something different. Ben decided, well, actually, you can do your movement. I'll continue then. And that's what happened, right? And if you say, well, no, it's not what happened, well, then you're just speculating, right? So there's no point saying, oh, well, it's a big lie and I was lied to. No, you're not. You're speculating.
Right. We don't want to go
No,
through.
you're just gambling that I'm not going to call out my sources.
I'm not. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. You want to say something?
Go on, Baraka. Sorry.
Yeah, so I want you to change this instead of us going back and forth into stuff that it looks like it looks like it's already a dead end, because of course he's not going to change your mind, you're not going to change your mind, so it's like, so we must move on. So I want to ask.
More.
Say it again.
I've still got more.
You still got more. All right. Well,
yeah.
Obviously you can release them as we move on.
I haven't had anything so far, I'm afraid, but I'm happy to keep going.
Let's talk about this rape gang inquiry donation as well, because that was a real nail in the coffin for me when Ben took that money back off Rupert. Because say he didn't ask for a refund. Okay, he didn't. Rupert offered, but why? Why did Rupert feel the need to offer that?
This is unfortunate narrative framing, and you're going off information that you don't have.
It's not narrative framing; it's a question.
Details on. Right. So when Rupert decided to launch, and let's be fair, let's give the whole context rather than go down, this sort of, this silly line that you're taking, where you're just sort of finding things that people like Basil have posted online and taking that as your information, right? Ben has been the biggest supporter of Rupert. When Rupert had his back against the wall from Reform, they were attacking him. Ben was the person that was there supporting him. He's been his biggest supporter throughout everything, right? He donated money to Rupert's Restore Britain to do a rape gang inquiry. What happened there, as far as I know, and again, because I don't have all the information and you have even less information as far as I know, right? Unless you've got sources again. But he asked for an update on what was happening with that inquiry. He was asking for what was going on. He was asking for updates, thinking that they would be forthcoming to the people that had donated.
Hello?
And then he was met with hostility. And then he was told, fine, take your money back. And he didn't want his money back.
Hello?
He kept saying to keep it
Richard,
and
hold on.
give an update. And in the end, he said,
can you both hear me?
have you got me? Hello?
I lost it then. I lost the connection, but I got you back.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know where I was mid speech there.
I think you was at the point where you said Ben got his money back. So I think that's where you were.
I went off and I was saying how, to be fair, Ben has been the biggest supporter of Rupert, right? When Rupert had his back against the wall from Reform, who were trying to then frame a narrative against him and were lying to try to silence him politically and assassinate him politically, Ben had his back throughout all of it, right? And then when there was those discussions and they wanted to form a party, and Rupert decided to create his movement, and Ben decided to then continue with Advance, Ben donated money to Restore Britain for Rupert's rape gang inquiry. What happened after that is Ben asked for updates on that rape gang inquiry. He was thinking that those updates would be forthcoming to the members and to people that have made donations. And he was met, I won't say with hostilities, but he was met with unpleasantness, and he kept asking for updates. And in the end, they said, look, just take your money back. And he didn't want his money back. And in the end, they kept, there kept being unpleasantness. So he just said, fine, So it's very different to how it's portrayed, and context is everything. And I get that you've got a vested interest in burning the house down on the way out, but it is important that if you don't have all the information, to not try to pass it off as you do.
Can I just say one thing? I don't care whether he wanted updates or not. If I was a multimillionaire, the last thing I would do is take £5,000 back from a rape gang inquiry, because there's no way of framing that. That is just petty.
Again, you have no context to frame it, right? If you had all of the messages, if you had
You don't
everything,
need
then it would be very
context for that. You don't take £5,000 back from a rape gang inquiry. You just don't do it.
right.
So
Okay.
just a
Well,
quick one. Let me
again,
jump in here, Richard. Sorry.
It's
So
you know,
what is exactly wrong with taking the money back, or what is right of taking the money back? Tell me, are you judging his moral of taking the money back, or are you judging the fact that maybe he has more money, he didn't need it? What is it?
I just see that to be immoral, if I'm honest. Because effectively, you know, we've got British girls out there who've been raped and abused and gone through terrible, horrendous things. And we've got an inquiry here where, okay, maybe it isn't running in exactly the way Ben wants. Maybe he isn't getting the updates he likes, but it's still trying to do something. And if you're badgering them to the point where they're offering your money back, personally, you should probably take a step back. And secondly, if they do offer it you back, just be gracious and go, you know what? No, even though you're not doing exactly the way I want you to do it, you're still trying to do something good. I'm not going to take it back from you. That's like taking it back from a charity. That's just not on.
Right. Okay. I understand. Now, Thompson, what is so like? Is there anything wrong with him taking the money? What's your initial reaction to that, or what's your defense to that? For Ben.
Well, Ben didn't want to take the money back. And again, there's no point, trying to get up on a high horse as if you have the facts and know the context and everything. He didn't want the money back. I think it's pretty reasonable to politely ask for what an update is. I know that both these characters can, their blood can run hot and they can be emotional and patriotic and care deeply about things, right? But, to pretend that we know the context, because what's been happening online, and this is why we're talking about it, is they're looking for gotcha stuff where people, like our friend here, can come on, claim the moral high ground and say, look, the constitution's broken, the wheels are falling off. And it's just not the case. If you don't have the information, and this is the main problem, I think, with politics in general. It's narrative is reality rather than actual reality being reality.
Correct.
And trying to air things in public when you don't have the information and pass it off as you do, and to claim moral high ground is, again, it's wrong. And you can say, oh, well, he's a multimillionaire and he shouldn't do it. We don't know the messages that were going on. We don't know the behavior that was happening. Maybe he wanted to be left alone in the end. Maybe he was put into a corner and just thought, and then that snippet of a message can be taken and framed a narrative, and then bang, there you go. Okay. I'd rather have the information, and I'd rather, Baraka, you had people like Ben and Rupert on to hash that out, and maybe they could be transparent with
Ben.
them.
I'd love you to have Ben on, Baraka, and ask him that one, because I'd like to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I think that is scheduled very soon. It's scheduled very soon. I can't tell you the date, but whenever that is fully ready to go, we'll announce it out. Definitely something that I would like to know too, because of course I've donated to a lot of charity. I've worked with a lot of charity through the businesses that I've run, and the last thing you do is get the money back. I would want to know exactly what happened, but of course I don't know anything. All I know is the thing that's been put out there online from people who have no direct connection to Ben or Rupert, so I can't really take them as sources. But I want to move on here. I want to ask specifically, what is so different, or what came to be, what's it called? Because you mentioned that Restore Britain is the way forward. So what has changed, or what has Restore Britain brought into the political sphere that indicates to you this is the way?
Well, first, let's just acknowledge the phenomenal growth that Advance UK had when they launched. It was incredible. It broke records. And Restore Britain has come on the scene and blown them out of the water. And it's brought a momentum and a zeal that Advance never did. And I think it's only fair to say as well, it has an MP, it has a voice in Parliament.
Right.
That it's it's all well and good saying, you know, Advanced UK is going to be more structured, but when it tiptoes down the road and doesn't even appoint a shadow cabinet sort of team after months, you've got to question how effective it's going to be in fighting the 29 election. Now, Restore are broken onto the scene like a wrecking ball, and they are absolutely, you know, they're flying down the road. They've only been going 2 weeks. It's what, 3 weeks, whatever it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they are going at a really rapid pace, and that is necessary because we don't know that the next election is going to be in 2029. You know, for all we know, how weak this Starmer government is. You know, they are a complete and utter shit show, and there's no other words for it. And they could collapse at any time. So we need a party that's going to be absolutely on it. Now, obviously, if there's an election tomorrow, I'm going to vote Advance UK because they're registered and they're going to stand candidates and Restore on. But the second Restore Britain get registered, and they are in the process of doing so, they are immediately going to be in a position where they are going to field more candidates and they're going to get more votes.
Right. So you mentioned that the because obviously I wanted to know what's the difference. Most of your framing has been more of Advanced UK. Sorry, Restore Britain is growing so fast, and that's why you made a jump in a sense, right? But there's a lot of
Well,
political
you
party
can't
that's
say
growing
there's
very
much difference
fast.
in policy.
Go on, say that again.
There's barely any difference in policy. The only
Right. So
difference is in the
it's all about
execution.
growth then, I guess.
It's about growth,
Right.
but it's also about the execution. It's how well you pull things off. It's how much truth can you tell. You know, there's been a lot of infighting within Advance. He can deny it, you know, but I've seen it with my own two eyes. So there are certain actors within Advance who are close to the centre who are going to cause problems. Major, but already have. You know, they've lost entire teams, let alone just some people pulling out. You know, so we need a party where that's simply not going on. And at the moment, that is Restore. Don't get me wrong. I've got my concerns about Restore as well. You know, no party is perfect,
Right.
but you've got to go with what you think is going to be the best option for the country.
Okay, Rich Thompson, you mentioned there
Yeah, no, I
that
think
the
that
execution.
it's a.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
excuse me, sorry, Brad.
So
Go
you
ahead. I
mentioned
didn't
that the
hear you.
execution is different. The growth is faster. There is not infighting. Any response to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, there isn't any infighting at Advance, and like I said, he can say whatever, but there isn't. I think we've lost, like I said, a few people that stood down or resigned from the college, but we've had more people join the college. We say that there's no shadow cabinet. Well, I mean, you know, we're not the Conservatives making a shadow cabinet. What we do have is a college full of subject matter experts on policy making around the policies that we're making. You know, what we couldn't do really from a principled perspective, and let's be clear, what we're trying to do at Advance UK is having a paradigm shift in politics, right? British politics, from about, you know, and I say this often, right? From about 1997, Tony Blair, you know, we ended up with our political class being a lot more comfortable with looking the electorate in the eye and lying to them. And we've got to a situation where we see noise and narrative, as you know, as reality, and that's what we need to change. We need accountability. So what we're doing is we're building policies from the subject matter experts, and we're going to be putting those out. And we can't just fire from the hip. We haven't got the luxury of someone like Nigel who wakes up, or, you know, like Rupert has done so before, and he says this is going to be a Restore policy, right? And for a lot of that, I get it. That's actually, you know, and a lot of things that he says are great, and a lot of the members would agree with them. And as Richard said, there's not a lot of difference on policies. It's the approach that we're saying. So it's not necessarily a criticism, but I'm just saying it's a different approach that we're doing. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build those policies with those experts very rigorously, and then we're opening those up to our members to feedback and comments as drafts, so that we can then build legislation around them as well. But we will be picking that up. As you said, we're 9 months old and we're growing. It just takes time to build that. Restore's had the advantage of being a movement, and as you said, it's got its members and it's had phenomenal growth. But it's also got members that were part of it as a movement. which obviously it's still a movement, but I have no doubt that it will get through the Electoral Commission whenever that happens. It's famously slow, but it does still have non-exclusive members that they're counting towards that, which, you know, is good for their revenue, but also bad when you sort of think about you want loyalty to one political party, and it might mean that they need to address that. But the growth is still there, right? But we are still arguing over, you know, a handful of thousands of people that are active on X, when actually what we really should be doing collectively, and I said this at the start, is trying to work collaboratively with everyone on the right, from the grassroots in particular, not parties, grassroots. We should be trying to actually wake up the people that are not voting, because there's about 19 million people that are not voting that we really need to give their voice to.
Yeah, correct. I just want to change this. I'll give you more time, Mr. Shaw. I'll give you more time, but I want to change the direction of this, because the conversation that a lot of people are having right now, a lot of people are really concerned of the fight between or maybe I should say the concern between the ethnonats, or maybe the leaked message that came out. Now, since you guys both know and worked with, and obviously you're still working with Ben, I want to just quickly play this out and tell me, why would Ben say something like this if it's true? Why would he come out and allege that Restore Britain has got a full tilt racist? And of course, I want you to defend it. Well, if you can defend it, and of course, I want you to give me your thought of why would somebody, a political party leader, say something about this, about his old friend, I assume. So let's play this.
Hi, John. Just ignore it. Restore Britain have gone full tilt racist and will continue.
Right. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Right. So why would Ben, in his right mind, if this is true, say that about his friend political party?
Who's that to, bro?
Both of you guys.
Yeah, I'll happily go first. I mean, I don't know if anyone saw the comments, the post by Don Keefe. You see that he put out a post, and, you know, essentially there was stacks and stacks and stacks of racist abuse to Ben. Right? I'm not going to repeat the word. I don't know if you can on YouTube, but it's calling him the P word, right? And it's about 3.5 minutes long, scrolling through comment after comment after comment after comment. And the point that I've got here, right, is that he's saying that again in the context of that's the one, right, of people that are supportive of Restore Britain since the launch. All of these comments have come in. I don't know what he said about the party. I'm pretty certain he's not said that, you know, people like Rupert, Charlie Downs, and other people are racist. He's claimed that they've got an ethno narrative about them, but he hasn't called them racist. He's look at the amount of racist abuse that he's been getting since it's come into being, right? And then what you find, as I said, Ben has been the biggest supporter of Rupert when he had his back against the wall. And then you have this message that's been leaked, right, that explains that he's a victim and subject to this onslaught of abuse. And rather than, you know, call out the people that are calling him those things, you know, and being, you know, on, you know, with all of those profiles saying, you know, Restore Britain, actually getting ahead of that and making sure that people don't behave that way, and that's not how you should be behaving. Rather than do that, he sort of, you know, calls Ben. He says he's disappointed. He's very quick to mention his disappointment. He's very quick to say that's a serious accusation, and then he's very quick the next day to post something to join. It's time to join Full Tilt, join Restore, or something, poking fun at it, right? So it's again, it emboldens people to continue acting that way, and that's really such a shame, to be honest.
Right. Sure. Any response to that? Hello?
Mate, I completely lost everything.
Did you hear
there. I
any
thought
of
my
that?
phone was dying, but I didn't hear a word of it.
The whole thing?
Go again, Bracky.
Sorry, did you not
Hello?
hear the whole thing?
I don't know if you guys can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Can you see us? Can you hear us?
I
I
got
can
you
hear you.
now.
I can see you again now. Right. I can. Yeah. Obviously,
So
I
about
didn't
Did
hear
you?
what Richard said, but
the question was about
I
the message, the message that was leaked,
yeah,
allegedly
the Don
leaked.
Keith one.
And of course,
Yeah.
no. The message that was leaked of Ben saying, quote unquote, Restore has gone full tit racist. And of
Do you want
course,
me to go
Right, yeah.
again? I don't know if you heard my comment.
Richard Thompson has, of course, brought up this other video that Don Keith posted, which shows a lot of racial abuse, a lot of racial slurs referring to Ben, as of course in
Yeah,
defense
I
of
got to that
why he
part. That
might
was
have
where it
said
cut
that.
out.
Right.
I mean,
Let me
obviously,
continue.
all that abuse is disgusting. I got to say, you know, on a personal level, like man to man, I like Ben, but you know, you can't be going off at him like that. It's absolutely it's unhinged. But I've got to say this: when Advance launched, and if you remember the Newcastle launch party, the venue got changed very last minute because it got hounded by people who were anti-racist. So they was, you know, they were calling Advance UK a terrible far-right racist Nazi party or whatever. And Ben said to me, he said, "You cannot control who votes for a party. You cannot control who joins a party. You can only control who is in the team." And it's the same for Restore. It's exactly the same. You know, we have got some members who are, you know, they've got some real spicy views that I just think are crazy, you know, too far. But, you know, what can you do? Oh, it's disgusting, granted, but what do you do about it?
I don't know if my final point was cut out, Baraka and Richard.
Yeah, I think
But
you didn't hear your
because-
final point. If you could just say that final point that you mentioned, then I
yeah,
think
because what I will say, and you know, for the most part, whenever I've seen Ben interacting with people, where people because you can't, you know, I'm not saying Restore is guilty by association of people that have those bad views, right? That's very important, but Advance hasn't had the same problem where there's been so many people, and it's excessive right now, that are attacking somebody like Ben like that. And when there has been, because there has been, you know, there's been or people that are saying that they were going to do something or say something. You know, but whenever I've seen
lost you
Ben
again.
step in, he's always said
Hello?
to not do it, to not to engage,
Richard,
and
hold on.
to not behave that way. And he's
Hello?
called out people that have.
Hold on for a bit.
And
You
I
can't hear
think
you.
what is a shame is that
Hello?
Rupert was very quick to say that this is very.
Hello, quick one. He's lost us again. Can you hear us now?
Am I back?
You're back again.
All right.
I can hear you
Again.
now.
I think I
The
know where you
Matrix
were
doesn't
going
want
with
me to
it
say
before
my
it cut
comment.
out. I think you were going down the line
Yeah.
of, you know, Advance hasn't seen this level of racism.
Well,
Am I
no,
right?
I was just saying a few other things, but no, because it hasn't for a start. It genuinely hasn't. But even if it did, right, and because Restore isn't guilty of association by having lots of members, less or more so. That's not the competition here that we're debating, right? Because that's almost irrelevant, really. What my point is that when I have seen people saying certain things, or whether that's in WhatsApp groups or whether it's directly on social media, Ben has said, you know, that he doesn't stand behind those. He's publicly denounced those kinds of views. Rupert was very quick to say that there are very serious allegations, or to say that he's disappointed. And then he goes on to his website, I think it was, to say it's time to join Full Tilt Restore. So he's playing off of it and poking fun at the racist comments. So he's emboldening people to continue, right? Whereas what he could have done is he could have said, no, that's the incorrect behavior. You know, this person has been my supporter. What is happening to him isn't correct, and it's happening with people with Restore under their profiles. I need to correct that behavior, and I need to show, you know, some morals here with it. And he didn't do that, right? So I will criticize Rupert for that, and I think fairly so.
Any response?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for Rupert on that, obviously, but I would agree to some extent on that. I think he should do more to call this out, but I get why he doesn't, because he doesn't want to give these people a platform. You know, he doesn't want to draw attention to any of these individuals who are saying all this stuff, because they are just, for the most part, they're just Twitter gobs. You know, they've got no profile in real life. They're just on X, just spouting away, and he doesn't want to draw attention to these guys and build their profile up even more to give them a bigger audience. So I
But
get
he does,
why he
Richard.
doesn't
He
call it
does.
out, but at the same time, I personally, I can't help but call stuff out. If I see something I don't like, as you guys have found out, I will call it out. So
Well,
you
you
know,
should be
I think he
as
should.
loud in calling that out for Rupert as you have been for Ben for things that I don't think are fair.
No, I think he
As you
should.
said here, you're
I
saying
will
that
be calling things out for
he's not.
Rupert. I'm going to be
You're
I'm going
saying
to
he
be a
doesn't
pain in
want
his
to.
arse.
Just
Yeah,
a
but
quick
you
one.
just said
Just a
you
quick
don't
one to.
want to. You don't want to embolden them. He doesn't want to give them a platform, but he is,
That's
just
my
as
view.
Barak
That's my
is showing
guess.
here. But that's what
That's
Barak
my
is
guess.
showing. Barak is
Now,
showing here that he
I'm just
is doing
showing you
that. He's
this here
emboldened.
because what you just said here that the reason why he's not responding to them is because he doesn't want to give them a platform. Now, if
I think he's
somebody's
just taking
saying
the
that,
mickey out of it there, isn't he?
say it again.
He's taking the mickey. He's just taking the piss out of it.
But this is coming from
It's
a Restore
emboldenment.
Britain
It's just, you know.
political party group. Tweets.
From the Restore Britain page, yeah. I would imagine
Now,
if Rupert runs that, which I imagine he probably doesn't, but whoever's behind the social media seems to be just taking the mickey out of it.
all right. So does that mean if the party was to send
Selective
or say
outrage.
anything, do we not put the blame on the party, or who do we put the blame on?
What for what? For them take that tweet, taking the mickey out of it?
I mean, yeah, if it's a mic that's been taken
I
out.
don't know. I don't know who runs social media, but at the end of the day, I don't know if they're taking the piss out the racists there, or if they're taking the piss out the, Ben for making the comments. You know, But at the end of the day, it is clearly a piss take. Whether it's in good taste or not, I will let you be the judge. Personally, I think it's a little bit close to the wind, but I don't think it's OTT, but it is close to the wind. And I think Rupert should do a bit more to call these people out, because I don't like it. Like
Well,
Baraka, I've defended you when
yeah, I
people have
know,
called
and I
you out. I've
appreciate you
defended
so
Based
much.
and Bougie. I don't like it when people do this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
And I will call it out. And I will peck Rupert's head for him to call it out.
but how do you do that if the people who are making racist tweets or targeting not just I don't want to put myself in this because this has nothing to do with me, but the targeting myself and anybody else, Rupert, Ben, anyone who so-called not welcome, whatever, needs to go home. Okay, let's just take somebody like this who are obviously I didn't have to search very much. I just have to go on my X inbox because he's been there for a very long time. Not he said this, obviously said some sort of stuff to myself. And when I was posting about this, when Carl Benjamin is not part of the party. He does not speak for the party. I understand. He posted something like this where it's a picture that says, to get a British passport here, brown, dark, black, you're not welcome. Not okay to say this thing. You can see that there. And I put it at the top saying, hey, Rupert, is this how it is? Your propaganda machine posted this. Could you clarify it for us? British people with brown skin, can they still be holding a British passport, which I have underneath this desk? Then, of course, a random account, not random, I've had this guy following me for a very long time. He said, what's wrong with this post? English, Scottish, Welsh, blah, 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 okay? And this guy has been sharing a lot of racial slurs towards myself and Base and Bougie. Now, of course, you might say this guy does not speak for the party. But then when you see the people who work for the party retweeting his post, doesn't that give these people more publicity?
Who retweeted the post who works for the party?
Well, that's very easy. Now here's a message that the same guy who we're talking about here. He goes by the name of Anglo. I don't know. That's his name. Okay. So he goes, "Ben, you're boring. Rupert is the leader. Get in line or shut up." All right, cool. That's the post. There's many other stuff I can just go with my DMs. Now, I want to show you the people who we know work for Rupert Lowe. Because there's a lot of people who do not work for Rupert Lowe who have a lot of opinion. Of course, we don't want to talk about those because I know there's a lot of people who just share stuff, which is fine. They can share their opinions, and if they want to be brutal, they can be brutal. But we know Charlie Downs, who we've requested to come on the show very much. He works for the party. Now, I'm not sure if he's friend with him, but he reposts his tweets all the time. And here's a screenshot of that. So does that mean Charlie Downs cannot be held accountable for emboldening this individual?
So hang on, Charlie retweeted that other guy's thing.
Yeah, that's what you're saying, yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
We shouldn't be doing that, should we?
Well, who do we blame?
That's my opinion.
Who do we call out? Because you said we can't be calling out anyone, so who do we call out?
Well, you can't call out people who don't speak for the party, but you can call out people who do speak for the party.
I just showed you a picture of somebody who speaks for the party.
Yeah, I know, and that guy, Charlie Downs, is it? So I've not met Charlie, I've not spoke to Charlie, right? But if you are going to retweet something that is, you know, I mean, which post exactly did he retweet? Because that is important.
Did you not see the screen? Are you not seeing the screen?
I saw
here
it.
Let me...
See, I've got here, Britain is a people, our people, but then there's a blur beneath it. Is that right?
Yeah. So the blur, obviously, there's a video. So the guy who has been obviously abusing Ben, I just shown you some screenshot of that. The guy who has been abusing Ben, myself, and Base and Bougie, and you can easily go find it there. All you have to do is just go in Base and Bougie's tweets, and you see it on the bottom. You'll find those guys. Are the same guys who have been retweeted by people who work for Restore Britain. So who do we blame?
Right,
because they're emboldening them, right?
The abuse.
Say it again.
Have they retweeted the abuse?
Oh, so you have to retweet exactly the abuse.
Well, I mean, if you don't know what the rest of the... I see stuff all the time that people post, and I don't necessarily go looking through their timelines to see what else they've posted. Sometimes I just see something, I like it, I might repost it. I don't go checking up on all the other stuff that they've posted. So, you know, you can't... If they retweet some of the abuse, fine, you got them. But if they don't know, how the hell can they be held accountable?
Right. So you can only... So if I was to go into the Ali Khomeini Ayatollah tweets and he says something about how important girls are in the world, which is, there's a lot of tweets of him saying that. So does that mean I shouldn't be asked about it because I didn't retweet of him killing them? How do we hold people accountable? Do we only hold them accountable when they actually put a tweet out there that indicates of a ratio that shows exactly what these people are doing to other people?
Do you know every account on Twitter?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
So if Charlie Downs doesn't know this account, really, just retweets it because he saw it, it's popped up on his feed and he's gone, I like that, and he retweets it, right? Do you go through every single account to check
as a political party, you should be aware who you retweet, yes.
So every time you do a retweet, you check all of their history to make sure they haven't done anything bad.
As a political party, I think it's important to know who you retweet, yes. That's why the Labour Party and the Conservative, all of them, make sure whatever they say.
Yeah, but that ain't the party account, that's his account.
Isn't he?
And you think he's going to go through every single piece of history from people? Come on.
No, just 2 seconds, Nigel Farage, the past couple of days, has been defending himself of this new thing that people are saying that he said something to do with Hitler. He's been defending himself, I mean, the past couple months. We don't know if he did it or not, but somehow he's been defending himself, and he's putting him in a little pickle so far. So he can go through it, but this party that retweets people who are racially abusing other people every single day, I have to say, somehow we can't hold them accountable. How does that make sense?
Right, hang on. Firstly, I don't know anything about this Nigel Farage thing. I don't watch the news. I haven't been paying any attention. I don't pay attention to Reform anymore because it's a joke. But going back to what I was saying, if you retweet somebody, and if it's like a famous account, right, and you know exactly who they are, and you know they're a well-known racist and everything, and you retweet some of their stuff, okay, fair dinkum. You know, you're sailing, you're skirting on thin ice there. But if this is just some account that you've not seen the account before, it's popped up on your feed, but you've seen the thing, you like it, you ain't going to go through that account and check every piece of their history to make sure they ain't never done anything before you retweet them. Because I certainly don't. So go through my retweets, because I'm sure you'll find some spicy accounts on there, because I don't bother checking. So why would he? Really?
All right, I do not want to go through all this. There's a lot more I can show you, obviously, of these screenshots out here. But if you're gonna just say, hey, you should go through every single thing they've ever done, then what does it really mean about spokesperson? Because this person's representing the party. If he's tweeting people who have share a lot of racial abuse to another political leader, I mean, you should be questioned, right? But if you suggest they shouldn't, then all right, I'll take that.
He knows. Now there's a light been shone on that. I don't think that guy, he should be retweeting that guy again, because he's got to know about it now, surely, hopefully. Anyway, so I don't expect to see him retweeting it again. If you see him retweeting him again down the line, okay, then you've got something to say. But at the moment, you know, give him the benefit of the doubt.
Right. Okay. Right. Perfect. So you just mentioned here that if the party makes a joke about racial comments that allegedly Ben has made, that Restore has gone full-tilt racist. If a party makes a joke about that, we can't hold the party accountable because we don't know who posted it inside.
Hang on,
the party.
I didn't say that. I said it might be.
We can't hold them accountable.
I'm not speaking on their behalf because I don't know. I was speculating.
Right. So I'm commenting what you just said. So can I not hold you accountable as well of what you just said then?
Baraka, I'm speculating, okay? Right. I am not an official party spokesman. I have joined Restore with no role.
Right. No, it's just that I just want to understand, because because a lot of these guys defend it all the time, and it looks like that's what you're doing as well. Not because I've been calling out. Well, we've been calling out a lot of, every time we always call out the left for trying to say there's something going on the right. I think you've probably seen the show for a very long time. We've been calling out the left for accusing the right of doing this and doing this and doing this. But when you see the videos that are coming out, and when you see people are saying, hey, black people are not welcome. Hey, when you see the color that shows, white, but when it's brown, dark, not okay. I mean, for a right-winger who has been calling out the left for accusing the right wing of doing this, I can't sit there and just watch it. I'm going to call it out. And I think it's sensible.
I call it out as well, as you know.
Say it again?
I said I call it out as well. As
I know you do, but
I've defended you and Based and Bougie, and I call it out when I see it.
And I appreciate every time.
But obviously, I can't call out everything because I can't see everything.
But do you think there is something that needs to be done in terms of trying to mitigate, to make sure this does not carry on for so long? Because, of course, it's not just impacting, because I want the best right-wing party to win for myself and many other people. I want the best right-wing party to win. If that's Restore, if that's advances, if that's a Reform, if they kind of fix the way they're going, I want them to win. But don't you think if this carries on, we'll just make it unlikely for them to win, because there'll be so many things going on and that needs to be called out? Do you think I'm wrong in having this opinion here?
I think it's damaging to the party. These people who are going to the extreme. Yeah, I think it's damaging to the party, and I hope it gets called out more often.
Yeah. Well, that's my take. That's my take. What's your take on that, Thompson?
Yeah, I think that it sounds a bit selective outrage, to be honest, Richard. You know, you've just levied a bunch of things at Advance and at Ben, but then when it's mentioned that the official party Twitter page is making poking fun at Ben getting a load of racist abuse, you know, that should be called out as vigorously as you've said a bunch of things that you believe to be true about Advance, right? And then again with Chai Downs, I agree with you on that, right? You can't, if you don't know, and we have to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't know how overtly, you know, spicy as it's been described this account is that harasses you, Baraka. I don't know that, and I don't know what Charlie knows about that, right? So I can't hold him accountable for that. But as you've said before, you know, Richard, you're saying that they don't want to give a platform to these people, but both of those examples give platform and embolden people to continue doing it, and the attack dogs then keep coming, right? So what really should happen is it should be called out, and it should say that, you know, and I take the point as well, right, that a Restore can't be guilty by association of their members, but when they do embolden things, when they know it's happening and they actively encourage it by retweeting, and we can probably scrap that one because, as we said, right, he will give him the benefit of the doubt, but using the language full tilt on the Restore's page is emboldening people to continue attacking Ben, the person that had Rupert's back when his back was against the wall from Reform. You know, and yeah, I know you don't speak on behalf of Restore, and you've been quite, you know, robust with what you've said about Advance, but we should equally be as robust with Restore for things that we can see with our own eyes to be true.
Right. Just before we wrap up here, do you have anything to say here, Shaw?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'm a pain in the arse to anybody who's got to deal with me. Okay, I like the truth. I like honesty. I didn't set up a party called the Integrity Party for no reason. Right? I am a stickler, and I think the whole full tilt thing. I think it's close to the wind. I really do. I think my take would be that they're probably taking the mickey out of Ben calling Restore full tilt racist, because Restore know they're not full tilt racist, and they know it's just a selection of members. So they're probably just taking the piss out of Ben there. I don't think they should have done it personally. And I did actually send a message in saying I think you're sailing close to the wind there. Didn't get a response, but it's at the end of the day, political parties across the spectrum need to be held to account. Okay, and because I've seen a lot in Advance, so I can call a lot out there. But I am going to be keeping my eye very closely on Restore, and I will call out anything that I see that I don't like. And I'm sure I will see stuff, because every party has stuff in it that you ain't going to like.
Correct.
No party is whiter than white, and
Correct.
I don't want Advance supporters to think that I am just gunning for them, because I'm not. The right wing of British politics needs to get its act together, because if it doesn't, the left are going to win. The left are organised, they coalesce, they make plans, they tactically vote. We can't keep having the same old bickering. I nearly swore. I'm trying not to
Keep going.
swear.
Keep going.
It's a new me. It doesn't work very often, but I'm trying. I don't want to see the same mistakes being made over and over again. And we keep allowing people into positions of power and authority within parties who take things too far. And there's one individual in your party that you probably know who I'm referring to, and they overstep, they piss members off, and people end up leaving. Things end up collapsing. I don't want to see that with Restore. I don't want to see it with Advance. I don't want to see it on the right. I want the right of British politics to start coming together and to stop messing about.
Right. Just before we move on here, as obviously we are very short on time, we need to wrap up very soon. Now, I want to switch this on the last topic, which obviously we're going to end on. with one question coming from the members as well. Now, one thing that a lot of people are talking about is the ethno-Nats debate or ethnicity debate, where the left wing are basically advancing forward with your party, Green Party. They are literally having nobody's challenging them. They are just going fast. On TikTok, on Instagram, they are winning because nobody's challenging them. While here on the right, we are fighting of who has the biggest nose, who's brown, who's this. And obviously, I might be joking there, but it's more like, oh, ethnicity. We're just having debate of ethnicity while Labour is trying to get us in war and stuff. Now, here's Ben Habib on Dan Wootton this afternoon, and it was talking about ethnicity and what really is, and basically trying to tell you that, hey, you can be English and somebody else who's brown can still be British. Doesn't have to be. It doesn't mean he's here to somehow take the English, somehow is gonna try to get in your Englishness and try to ruin it for you. But here's Ben Habib. I want to play this clip, and you guys can tell me what you think and the debate of ethnicity stuff that we're having right now.
Charlie Downs and Restore Britain, I think, are going down. Charlie Downs and Restore Britain, I think, are going down a cul-de-sac out of which is going to be very, very difficult to emerge. And now, can we have the debate on ethnicity as opposed to the political thing? Ethnicity, if you look up the definition of it, is not about simply race. It's about cultural identity as well. It's about shared language, a shared history, a shared art, shared vision of who your national heroes are, an understanding of your modern context taken from your historical one. It's a multifaceted thing. And it's virtually impossible to define what it means to be this ethnicity or that ethnicity, particularly in a country like the United Kingdom. You can do it with Japan, because Japan has spent thousands of years keeping itself racially and ethnically almost identical.
Thoughts? What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I can go. So, I mean, I think that he's raising a really good point. He's raising an interesting point, because obviously he's been attacked quite a lot and as of you have, Baraka, right? With, and as I said, I don't know if I can swear and say it on YouTube. So the P word, right? There's been thrown at him. That whole clip by Don Keefe was about 3.5 minutes long, scrolling through exclusively them calling him that, right? And there's other stuff as well that he's been called. That was just the cherry picked ones for that word, yeah. Right. And it's because there's a lot of that going around. And as we said in our previous segment of what we were talking about, that's being emboldened by the language that's been coming, from spokespeople, from people closely aligned to it. I'm not saying the party's doing that, but what they're doing is they're not dismissing it, and I feel like they're emboldening that. And with Charlie Downs, I think that there was a clip of him with Nana talking about a few things. So I would just say this, because I don't doubt that we're all in agreement with this. Would all of us agree that Ben is English or not?
Oh, is that a question to us?
English.
Yeah, that's a question. That's a question to this panel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Go on. You want to go first, Richard?
Well, his mother's English. His father's Pakistani, so he's half and half, isn't he?
Yeah, half.
But this is the point is that we make, right? So if we're talking about the culture, and obviously we put out the culture policy when we did the immigration policy, we realised how important that was. Ben's, as you said, his mother is English. I think she's blonde with blue eyes. His granddad fought in World War One, right? So he has that heritage. He has that ancestry. He has. So I don't quite understand any argument that is made by anybody to say that from any standpoint, because he's a different shade, and you can argue the demographic changes, you can say it, and they're fair points too to talk about, right? But to dismiss someone, because of the color of their skin completely, is completely wrong. And I think that's what he's talking about there, because that's what's been happening. There could be two people that go into a pub full of those people that sent him those messages. One could be born in Poland, but be born in, Newcastle. Another one could be, Nana Akua, right, who's born in Newcastle, and they both go into the pub, both brought up, born in England, Both had been sort of raised in England, boarding school was the name of it, right? You could do a thought experiment to say the same. And there would be one person that everyone would look at and ask them to leave, right? And that's the points that he's making when they're talking about ethno-nats. They're saying that basically people are targeting people because of the color of their skin.
Richard Shaw, what thoughts?
I think there's a big argument, obviously, at the moment on the right between ethnats and civnats, you know, ethno-nationalists, civic nationalists. And Ben's obviously a civic nationalist. And there are a lot of ethno-nationalists within Restore. I think that's quite obvious from all the posts and stuff on X. And my take on it is, I think anybody who's a perfect civic nationalist or a perfect ethno-nationalist is wrong. I think, you know, it's a mixture of the two. Because if you've got, you know, somebody who is, you know, white, but they're culturally not English, then they are going to eventually, you know, when I say English, you know, British, they are inevitably going to cause problems for the country. Like, if you've got somebody who is black or Asian or whatever, but they are culturally English, then they're certainly going to integrate a lot better. But eventually, you know, if you have enough people from black and Asian descent, you know, you're going to end up in a situation where the country is no longer ethnically Anglo-Saxon. And some people aren't comfortable with that, you know, and I can understand. I personally, I'm more of a civic nationalist than I am an ethno-nationalist, because I think if you don't have the same culture, you know, the same values, the same morality, you're gonna have a bad time. You know, that is the core basis behind a nation for me. You know, I understand why people might feel, you know, as Anglo-Saxons, you walk down the street in Birmingham and you go, this doesn't feel like my country, you know, and I get that, and I really do think that the demographic replacement of the country is something we have got to take seriously, because there are a lot of people who you can get it, you see it in like third or sometimes beyond generation immigrants who, you know, their parents come over here, they integrate fully, they have kids, and then their kids have kids, and then all of a sudden they want to discover their ancestry and their heritage, and they start abandoning British values and going down that track, and it can create problems. So I can see it from both sides of the coin, but I think you've got to be fair and balanced. You can't go silly ethno-nationalist and go, oh, if it's not white, it's not right. That's ridiculous. You know, that's far too extreme. And you know, you've got to have a balance.
Right. Just to wrap up here, as just a reminder of somebody who's on the right, looking at all these parties, and I'm looking at Advance, I'm looking at Restore. I'm thinking, okay, Restore has a lot of rhetoric that seem like, okay, maybe not. A lot of people are encouraging that, maybe yes, and a lot of people on the other side are like, no. And the leader himself is very, very not direct into a real solutional type of response to say, hey, everybody's welcome. I mean, a question was put forward to him by Tommy Robinson asking if somebody like Barack or somebody like Ian Carroll can join the party as a political candidate, and the response was rather, I think, shocking. The fact that everybody dismissed it. It was more of like, yeah, we have a black guy who's working as a cameraman, and I'm thinking, no. The question was either a black man can represent the party politically at the parliamentary stage, and the answer was more like, hey, we have a black man working for us. Oh, we have a black man who has done a cameraman for us. That was not the question. So I'm thinking, okay, we need either yes or no type of thing. But I'm still searching. Reform, Advance, Restore Britain is still there. It's still on the card. And that's why it's important for myself to ask the tough questions to anyone who has obviously moved to the party to try to convince me, like, hey, Barack, you know, everybody's welcome type. Now, but the left is advancing forward fast. We might not see it, but they're advancing forward, and it's very evident seeing what happened in Gorton and Denton with the Green Party, Hannah Spencer taking that victory unchallenged, I have to say, given the results. Now, my question for both of you guys is this: because when Anna Spencer was campaigning for Greens in Gorton and Denton, and that's a Green Party, right? There were your party members were supporting her. That's a different political party. They were supporting her. Why? Because they share similar thing. They might not be in the same party, but they want a lefty to win, right? But on the other side, Nick Botley was campaigning, and of course, Matt Goodwin was campaigning, but there was not sort of unity to get a right-wing candidate in. Do you think in the near future, maybe in the next couple months, or maybe in this May election, do you think we're going to see more united type of right-wing, in the sense where it doesn't matter who's representing which party, as long as we got something in agreement, we can support them? And all of you guys, just take this one. Just answer this for a bit before we wrap up. Cheers.
Well, I think that's a great question, and it's terrifying to see how the left can be so effective in that, because I mean, a lot of their campaigning was in different languages. It was on Gaza issues as opposed to local issues. And obviously, Nick, being a local person, an MBE, for his work that he did in that community, was genuinely, hands down, was the best man for the job. He was the best candidate for it. I don't think that you can talk about reform, really, about trying to get around them, because they're not necessarily in a lot of ways right of centre party. And there's a lot of flaws which I think we can all necessarily agree on. What was a shame, and I don't obviously know, Richard can't speak on behalf of Restore. Obviously has his own insights into it. But what was a shame is that I recently did, as they were campaigning, the Dan Wooten show, and on that was Montgomery Toms, and he's a spokesperson now for Restore. And I said to him, given that they don't have a candidate, and how aligned certain policies are within both of our parties, would they endorse our candidate? And of course, they don't do that, because they're not interested in that, in the same way that the left is, right? But it's something that everyone needs to come together and think about, right? And who knows what the next week looks like in politics, let alone the next 2.5 years or so. But what I would like to see is more collaboration with people. But of course, that does mean that there needs to be more than one person at the top that makes the decisions, because then it's open to people's being showing emotions and being emotive in their responses, right? There does need to, I think there needs to be this fight it out amongst the right. And I would really like to think that, this is for the country. This isn't for any individual. And that's really what needs to be considered as we go forwards with things and into the future, 100%. What that looks like, your guess is as good as mine at this point.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. I really do appreciate you guys, your time and a little bit of going back and forth. I think this one was needed. Any last word for the people watching at home? I'm assuming you guys probably have something to say to the people watching at home. Is there going to be any sort of endorsement? Is there going to be a message? What is it? Richard, sure. First.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Richard.
I mean, I just want people to just think for yourselves, question everything, and don't accept anything you don't like from anybody in any party. Just call it out. If you see something you don't like, call it out, because at the end of the day, unless we improve, unless we get more coalesced, we're in serious trouble. Like you just said about Gorton and Denton, that thing, the Greens are keeping me up at night. I don't mind saying it. They're living rent free in my head, and I don't like it. We have got to improve. So I'm going to call out stuff I don't like in Restore. I'm going to call it out in advance. I'll call it out, and there's no point in calling out in Reform at this point. They're a lost cause. But just, folks, I don't care if you support Restore, I don't care if you support Advance. Just don't support any of the uni party, and for God's sake, let's stop the bickering now at this point. We've got it out of the system, okay? I didn't want to come on here and have this debate tonight, I'll be honest, but you bloody ambushed me with it. But, you know, I'm a hothead, I can't help it. Once I start going, that's it. It comes out, and I will give you the unfiltered truth all the time. So, you know, but just don't vote Reform, for God's sake.
Right. Perfect. Richard Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Baraka. I would just say to everyone, similar fashion, right? You know, be critical of the parties that you support and that you lend your support to and your votes to. I would say if you're an Advance supporter and member, keep your resolve, keep your bulldog spirit. We're 9 months old, and we're actually, you know, like I said, hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have had regional directors in every region. We're rolling policies out. We're giving our members a voice. That mechanism is being built as we speak. And that's the whole point of Advance, is to change the paradigm of British politics and to have accountability. That structure is being built, and it will be built. But yeah, keep that bulldog spirit, because what we're doing is trying to do something really meaningful. You know, and we will have lots of announcements coming, lots of noise making to keep up with the other parties. But you know, the substance behind it in the policies really shows through. So, you know, keep supporting, and as Richard said as well, you know, call out anything with any party, and you should have your own morals when deciding where to be.
All right, thank you so much. And just to respond there, it wasn't an ambush, folks. It was, I think this, as obviously you just mentioned yourself, you needed to get that out of your system. And I noticed, and I thought, okay. And of course, Richard Thompson reached out to myself saying, hey, I want to come on as well. And we just had it on. So there's no such a thing as an ambush. I think this conversation was needed. And I'm glad that you mentioned that you needed to get it out of your system. So I guess this was needed. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, folks, for coming on. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, folks, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Without further ado, folks, thank you so much for tuning in today. And I'll leave you on that. The message is clear. Think for yourself. Don't vote Reform. They've gone. And the message is basically to unite on the right and stop bickering. And, of course, people to think for themselves. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. You've been silenced for very long, and every time you try to resist, they put you in jail.
For my children.
You've controlled your mind for so long to the point where you let them decide what your kids should learn, what gender they will be. And now you've let them to come for the whole nation, destroying what Britain once stood up for. They use this media machine not to report the facts to you, but to tell you what to think and what you should do.
Always be careful.
They're hiding the facts behind the noise, and they're recruiting pedophiles to tell you how to behave. And these politicians you meant to protect you, they're out there smashing your head on the ground. And no jail time for them. This road we've been on has been very dark for a very long time, and it's time to shine a light on the truth and advocate for justice. We the people make the nation, and if we don't stand up and advocate for justice, then we certainly won't make this nation great again. So we have to create a place for that, a place that can contribute to a more informed society. And that place is Next Frontier Media.